Hello again. I am back this week. Nicole and I read Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and we sort of stretched our boundaries. We got away from young adult fiction and kind of stepped into more of an adult story. It's historical fiction, but it also has elements of sci-fi and fantasy, which make it really exciting because those are like my three favorite genres all wrapped up together, so that's awesome. So this book is the first in a series of 8, which blows my mind because so much happened in the first book that I just have no idea how there could be much story left for any more. So I am very excited to see what those books have in store for me. The story is told from Claire Randall's point of view. She's our main character, she's our heroine. It's 1945 and Claire is on her second honeymoon with her husband Frank. They go to Scotland. Frank is a historian and a college professor, so he's really interested in his ancestry, and so he's doing a lot of research on that while they are in Scotland. And Claire is an ex-combat nurse, and she's really interested in medicine, and so she's collecting herbs and flowers and learning about, you know, the local flora. While they're there, they stumble upon this ritual at these standing stones, and it's really interesting, it's really intriguing for them. Claire ends up going back on her own and ends up being transported into the 18th century Scotland, which is completely just insane. Luckily for Claire, she is very strong, she's independent, she's smart, she's witty, she's funny. She's able to survive going back in time and use her head and be able to get herself out of some pretty crazy situations. She meets these men. She meets one man in particular, a young Scottish warrior named Jamie Fraser, and they end up having their own love story, which is a struggle for Claire through most of the book because she's been thrown back in time to where her husband from the future hasn't been born yet, so she's really just confused about the entire thing, and it's a big ordeal. A little bit about Jamie Fraser. He is young, he's really handsome, and he's funny, and he's stubborn. Claire and Jamie are both so stubborn, so it's really cool to see two main characters who are interacting who are both so stubborn. There isn't one who rises up above the other, and they're constantly keeping each other on their toes. So it's just a really dynamic relationship, and the characters are flawed, but they're also just so great. The writing is just amazing in this book, and it was great. So for readability, I gave the book a 4 out of 5, just because there's some Gaelic in there that gets a little bit confusing, but as long as you use context clues, like, you're fine. It's not a big deal, and it also just makes it feel more authentic, and the accent is kind of written in there sometimes, and it just makes it, like I said, feel more authentic and just really great read. For character development, I gave it a 5 out of 5 because, like I was just talking about the characters a second ago, they're great, they're so dynamic, and they grow, and they change, and they learn from each other, and it's not just the main characters, the side characters are so great in the story. There is not one character that's introduced who doesn't have some kind of effect on the story. The plot I gave a 5 out of 5 because this book was a roller coaster from start to finish. As I said in the beginning, I can't believe that there are 7 more books. Like, what more could happen? There was so much packed into this. This book is so long, but it didn't feel like it was long because there was action along every step of the way. It was non-stop. It was wonderful. For the cover art, I gave it a 4 out of 5 just because it's nothing special, but in a series that long, it's important, I feel, especially in an adult series that's that long, it's important to keep it just kind of simple, and it does the job. For writing style, I give it a 5 out of 5. It's in Claire's point of view. The writing is really witty. It's really funny. Even though it's in Claire's point of view, we're still able to get a view of all the characters and how they're feeling and what they're doing. She doesn't leave anything out. It was almost as though Claire was a friend who was just like spilling her guts. That's how it felt for me the whole time. I don't know if that was the writer's intention, probably not, but that's how I felt. Like, I felt like we could be buds. I don't know, I really loved Claire. I thought she was amazing. And then finally, enjoyment. I think it's pretty obvious that I gave this book a 5 out of 5 for enjoyment. I loved it, and well, not unfortunately, I was introduced to the Star series before I read the book, so my mom is obsessed with Outlander, and so over winter break we kind of binge watched it, and we didn't finish the first season, but I feel like I saw enough of it that I probably saw about 2/3 of this book, which there are positives and negatives. I guess a big positive for me is that it didn't ruin it for me. I knew what was going to happen, but I still couldn't put the book down. I was still really excited about it. Another positive is that it followed it so well. I think there were like maybe a couple things that they left out, but they did such a good job, and I was just, I mean, floored as I was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, they did a really good job. Great work. The characters, the actors that they chose to play the main characters were spot on. I was thrilled. So, averaging out my score, it's like a 4.67, so I'm gonna round it up and say 5 out of 5 for this book. I loved it. I can't wait for the next one. I'm not sure what Nicole and I are gonna read for next week. We haven't decided yet, but when we do, I'm sure we'll know by the time that she gets to put up her video, so she can announce it to you. And Nicole, I'm excited to see what you thought of the book. I have a feeling you probably liked it too. I feel like it's kind of right up your alley, but we'll see. I will talk to you all later. If you have any suggestions or comments about the book, go ahead and leave them down. Let me know what you think about the book versus the TV series, or just one or the other in general. Whatever, just let me know what you think. Give us suggestions, whatever you like. So I will see you next week. Bye!